Boy, have I got a story for you guys today. This story had my mouth on the floor like what? But unfortunately, this happens all the time. It's no surprise. But we're going to talk about Dona Drake. And I know it's spelled Donna, but it's pronounced Dona. They tried to make her name even sound exotic and different. This story is just... it's something else. It is something else. Comment below if you're familiar with Dona Drake's work. She also went by Rita Rio. She went by several different names. If y'all thought Veronica Lake lied about her whole life, you're about to be so shocked. So today's video is going to be on the fascinating tale of Dona Drake, a famous figure in Paramount's history. Back in 1941, when Drake was welcomed into the Paramount family, the studio unveiled her official biography to the media. During those days, whenever there would be a new starlet signed by a studio, aspiring star, they would come out with like this PR package, welcome to Hollywood. It was a big deal during the golden age of Hollywood, right? Even when Sophia Loren was introduced to Hollywood, they did a welcoming party for her, invited all the stars. They come pre-prepped with the biographies written for them, a whole new look, a name, publicity, press, surgeries all done. It was a big deal. You got to understand, people are making millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars off of these stars. So they are now a business, okay? Dona Drake, when she was introduced by the studios, they already had a biography written out for her, like where she's from, who's her parents, her whole history. And guess what? 9 out of 10 times, those biographies were lies. They were made up. They were made up. These stars came with their stories pre-told, whether to garner sympathy or appeal to a specific demographic or crowd. They would make them be whoever they were. This is why a lot of them suffer with like this syndrome of having identity crises. We're going to get into. According to this biography for Drake, Drake was a Mexican native born to Jose and Inancio Novella, who were entrepreneurs in the restaurant industry. Moreover, she was described as having a diverse heritage of Mexican, Irish, and French roots. They just threw everything in there for her. But here's the twist. It was all a fancy fabrication. It was all a lie. Many of these stars you hear that have like 6 different heritages usually are passing Black actresses or actors. Like if you hear of a star say she was French, Irish, Switzerland, and this, they just throw all of those heritages in there so that they can appeal to these different people, right? If we say she has French in her, then the French would accept her if she ever wanted to go to Paris and etc. And they would even go as far as teaching these stars the language and making them fluent in whatever language background they said they were from so that they could easily sell that aura. The more people you appealed to, the more money you made. So it was good to throw a whole bunch of ethnicities in there, backgrounds, etc. Like it just was beneficial to you, the more mass appeal you had. And it was all a lie. If you have seen my Marilyn Monroe video, we found out that Marilyn most likely was Mexican and was passing as a white woman. Her mother, she was born in Mexico, her mother and everything. It's just crazy. And her whole life, the tragic tale, was most likely fabricated. Rita Hayworth was passing and so many others. It's even alleged that Ava Gardner was passing also. And both Marilyn, fun fact, Marilyn and Ava Gardner, I did videos for all of these women that I'm mentioning in this video. Some are on my list, but like Ava Gardner, Marilyn Dandridge, Lena Horne, Merle Oberon, I did videos for all of them, so check those out. But fun fact, both Marilyn and Ava Gardner were great friends of Dorothy Dandridge, but had to hide it from the media because even though it was illegal for interracial marriages, the public also frowned upon white stars being so close and good friends with Black stars. So a lot of white stars had to hide their friendships with Black stars too, because the ignorant people of that era just could not handle it. It annoyed their soul and they would remove their support. They would call you a N lover. Y'all can fill in the blanks with that. Ava Gardner, though, which is why I love her. I did a video for her. I love her so much. She was so sweet. She was more bold about her friendships with Black actresses and boldly proclaimed her friendship with Lena Horne. I did a video for her also. And Dorothy, and even have pictures with them. Like, she did not hide her friendship. She called them besties and all of that, and just really didn't care. And Ava Gardner was someone else who I think was passing. Her whole story came out to be fabricated. There were some lies in her upbringing and childhood and stuff like that too, which is why it's so weird when you do documentaries on these people to kind of know like what could be true and what not. Like you got to take everything with a grain of salt, because a lot of their stories, even like tragic tales that happened to them, like a lot of them seem to have been taken advantage of, touched without their permission by a group of men in a car in their neighborhood as their childhood story. Because in that era, it was becoming more popular for women to start to speak up, and they wanted to appeal to broken and wounded women. Hollywood is sick, guys. What's crazy is that Marilyn, she kept a good secret that she learned most of her mannerisms for Dorothy Dandridge. And I did a video for Dorothy Dandridge. It's crazy. But the whole Marilyn persona, the, cutesy, she got all of that from Dorothy Dandridge and was actually imitating her. They were great friends though. Dorothy got her flowers too, but not like a Marilyn, and she deserved that. It just is crazy. But no Marilyn slander is allowed in the comments, because she did a lot of work behind the scenes for people of color too. And in her later life, publicly, she did start to show out for the Black community. But in the beginning, she was just trying to make it, man. You gotta do what you gotta do, okay? Hollywood was a movie of its own. Nothing but a facade, smoke, and mirrors. Nothing is as it seems. And it's been like this since the dawn of time. Everyone's origin story is made up by the studios to fit an image. These people weren't even allowed to be their true selves. Hollywood was and is modern day slavery, where they change your name, change your history, change your looks, and dictate everything you do. And they dictate everything you do under stiff contracts and threats by the mob and the elites. These blackmail parties. If you've seen my Diana Dors video, where she used to host these blackmail parties that they record people in there doing crazy stuff, put them under the influence, spike their drinks on some Diddy stuff without their permission. They would spike these stars' drinks and have them all under the influence, and then have them in compromising situations, doing things with minors, doing things with, the same gender as them, and then have them on tape and then use that as blackmail to get them to do what they want. Because a lot of times I'll see in the comments, you guys will say, oh, they chose this life. Oh, they're all part of this evil thing. Yeah, some of it is true. There's a lot that were willing participants, like Diana Dors. I can't make up anything for her. She hosted these parties, could not speak. And yes, you can have the strength to be, I don't know, like a Cat Williams or Cassie and finally speak out. But you got to understand, a lot of these stars weren't really making money like that. Even though they appeared glamorous, they weren't getting paid their dues, and they were getting crazy threats. They would send the mob after them, and there's still mobs in Hollywood. They could fake heart attacks. Like they had stuff back then where it couldn't make it look like you overdosed or had a heart attack if you even planned on speaking too much, which was what I think happened to Marilyn, and so many other stars of her era said that they think that's what happened. But a lot of them would just appear overdose, or they could make you go crazy with certain substances. Like you had a Jean Tierney running around bare with nothing on. Like it was just crazy. If you checked out my Kim Novak video, Kim Novak was one of those people that had to change her whole identity also. Everything, and she spoke about it so much, and she even had to hide her love, her interracial affair. They enforced a culture of fear and consequences for speaking out or not obeying, but the reward of money, fame, and power is all an illusion, because once these people got the fame and power, they weren't happy, which is what happened to Dona Drake and her sad life. Even in the 1940s and 1950s, these stars were all addicts trying to escape their grim realities. Marilyn dying of overdose, Jean Tierney losing her mind, running the streets bare under an insane amount of medically prescribed substances, Dorothy Dandridge overdose, Judy Garland overdose, Rita Hayworth, Ava Gardner, Veronica Lake, and so many more died while trying to cope. Did videos for all of them. And you and I can't even begin to imagine what their lifestyles could have been like. Hollywood is the definition of everything that glitters is not gold. Actors are sometimes known for embellishing their backgrounds, but Dona Drake took this to a whole new level. The reason behind her lies was her aspiration for a thriving Hollywood career that wasn't limited to stereotypical roles like maids or cooks. The entertainment industry, because at the time and for many years after, the studios felt the movie going public wouldn't accept an attractive, like, black actress, no matter how talented in any role, but that of a servant or comedic sidekick. Certainly not as a romantic lead opposite a white actor. The truth about Drake's life was far from what was portrayed. She wasn't from Mexico, and she wasn't even of Latin descent, despite mastering Spanish to perfect her cover story. Like I stated, they would teach them these languages to cover up. So she learned Spanish and was speaking it fluently just to cover up her true identity. In reality, Drake was born as Eunice Westmoreland on November 15, 1914 in sunny Jacksonville, Florida, but some sources say Miami. Choose which one. Her parents, Joseph and Novella Westmoreland, were a light-skinned African-American couple. Yes, you read that right. Drake had managed to pull off one of the most astonishing instances of racial passing since the glamorous movie star Merle Oberon, which I did a video for. Her mother was dark skinned. She had her mother walking around with her as the maid. That one was just crazy, okay? And she, unfortunately, such drastic measures were often deemed necessary for actors of diverse backgrounds to have any chance at a substantial Hollywood career during those times. But it really makes you wonder how hard it must have been for the Westmorelands to pretend their own daughter was a stranger, to miss out on her film premieres, and to maintain her secret for the sake of her career. Now, that is true love for a parent, right? Unfortunately for Drake, she had a sad ending full of stress and heartbreaks from keeping such a secret. We are going to get into all of that and more, and I know this was a long intro. I got carried away. But first, hey friend, welcome to my channel, karinealourde, where we deep dive and break down the most iconic stars in history. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do so. And if you're already subscribed, please turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now, without further ado, let's start from the very beginning, which is her childhood. And unfortunately, there are no photos of her childhood or anything like that. Let's travel back in time and unravel the captivating story of Eunice, or as she was affectionately known, Una. Born on November 15, 1914 in Miami, Florida, Una was one amongst 5 children. Una was a born musician, and her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Westmoreland, were quick to spot this talent. Little did they know then how far their daughter's musical abilities would take her. In 1930, when Una was blossoming into a teenager, the Westmoreland family shifted base to Philadelphia. Mr. Westmoreland found employment in a restaurant while one of Una's siblings began his college journey. Una, who had grown into an astonishingly beautiful young lady, lent a helping hand at the restaurant for a short period, entertaining guests with her beauty and musical talents. However, her dreams of stardom were too big to be ignored. In 1932, Una, her mother, and another restaurant waitress named Renee Villion packed their bags and set off for Manhattan. Una and Renee formed a singing duo, and this marked the beginning of Una hiding her ethnic roots. Thanks to her curly hair and blue-green eyes, she was easily mistaken for either Caucasian or Latin. The duo soon landed a gig at the Paradise Club on Broadway. It was here that Earl Carroll, a notorious theatrical producer known for being a rival to Flo Ziegfeld, spotted Una. Una was not just any chorus girl. She could sing, dance, and play multiple instruments, including the clarinet, drums, saxophone, and piano. Post their stint at Vanities, Una and Renee toured together until Renee decided to leave the act to get married. Undeterred, Una continued as a solo performer and even opened for popular entertainers such as Rudy Vallee and Harry Richmond. In 1934, columnist Walter Winchell praised Una's performance in a nightclub, writing, "Una Villion's torso shifting serves to synchronize the tempos instead of Baron's directing. This young lady directs the tutors with her wiggling," end quote. Around this time, Una began dating Louis Pretty Amberg, a Russian-born mobster who showered her with attention and extravagant gifts. However, their relationship ended tragically when in October 1935, Amberg was found lifeless in a burning car in Brooklyn, and he was found without any clothes on, nothing like that. It was a hit. Meanwhile, Una had made her way to Hollywood, now going by the name Rita Rio. She had secured a minor role as a fiery Latina in the comedy film Strike Me Pink. starring Eddie Cantor and Ethel Merman. When questioned about Enberg by the FBI, she claimed to only know him as Mr. Cohan and was unaware of his occupation. She fondly remembered him as a polite and respectful man with whom she enjoyed horseback riding through Central Park. Rita's first brush with the silver screen, unfortunately, didn't shake the Hollywood landscape as much as she hoped for, so she packed her bags and headed back to the city that never sleeps, New York. Not one to be defeated, Rita decided to orchestrate a publicity spectacle. She adopted a Latin persona full-time and formed an all-girl, all-white orchestra named Rita Rio and the Rhythm Girls. It was indeed a unique sight, a black woman masquerading as a Latina, leading an all-white band.
My Margarita, I'm so romantic. A karinealourde, no se tu sota. She has a rhythm that's so hard to imitate the ladies thrilling. She has an airing imitators, la 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 la. The way she twists you around her finger. Hold tight and kiss me lightly.
The band created quite a stir and toured successfully across the United States, sharing stages with esteemed band leaders like Kay Kaiser. Upon their return to Hollywood, they filmed several musical shorts which were shown in the cinemas before the main feature. One such short featured Rita performing an amusing song, Feed the Kitty, alongside an up-and-coming actor named Alan Ladd. As she navigated through the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, Rita went through a few more name changes. For a brief period, she was known as Rita Novella, a tribute to her mother's first name, and then Rita Shaw. During this time, she crossed paths with actress Dorothy Lamour, an old acquaintance from New York. On Lamour's recommendation, Rita auditioned for a role in the film Aloma of the South Seas at Paramount Pictures. She nailed the audition and landed the part, leading to another name change. This time, she became Dona Drake, pronounced Dona, and the name finally stuck. This is when Paramount began promoting her as a Latina actress hailing from Mexico. Whether the studio was aware of Drake's actual heritage and chose to play along, or if Drake had successfully deceived them as well, remains a mystery, but I think the studios knew. Regardless, the film was a roaring success, bagging nominations for Academy Awards in cinematography and visual effects. Paramount quickly cast her in a supporting role in the Bob Hope comedy Louisiana Purchase. Reportedly, Hope was quite taken with the young actress and ensured her inclusion in his next film, Road to Morocco, one of the renowned road movies starring Hope, Bing Crosby, and Dorothy Lamour. In this film, Drake, billed fifth, played an Arab princess. When not busy with film projects, Drake performed in nightclubs and contributed to the war effort by featuring as a pinup favorite in Yank and the Army weekly magazines. Her subsequent film was the musical spectacle Star Spangled Rhythm. Though the film's plot was rather insubstantial, it served as a platform for all of Paramount Studios' contract players to showcase their talents in song and dance numbers. Drake performed on the swing shift, sharing the spotlight with actress Marjorie Reynolds and Betty Jane Rhodes. Paramount's initial enthusiasm for their Mexican Spitfire started to fizzle out after they cast her in a few forgettable films. These included the musical Salute for Three and a less memorable Bob Hope vehicle, let's face it. When she was lent to Monogram, a smaller film studio known for its budget films, for the lead role in Hot Rhythm, it was clear that her days at Paramount were numbered. They ended her contract shortly after. Drake, however, wasn't bitter about the experience. She said, and I quote, "It was wonderful at first with Paramount. I thought I was on my way to becoming a film actress," end quote. While filming Hot Rhythm, her friends and fellow actress Joan Blondell introduced Drake to an up-and-coming costume designer named William Billy Travilla. At the time, Travilla was working at Western Costumes, but was soon to hit it big. Later, he would win an Oscar for his work on the Errol Flynn adventure film Adventures of Don Juan. He also created iconic dresses for Marilyn Monroe, including the famous white pleated halter dress from the 7-Year Itch. Eventually, he would move into television and bag a couple of Emmys. After a whirlwind courtship of just 10 days, Drake and Travilla got married at the Santa Monica City Hall on August 19th, 1944. It's unclear when Travilla found out about Drake's true heritage. Interracial marriage was illegal in the United States at the time, so keeping Drake's secret became even more critical. It wasn't just her career on the line. It left many questions unanswered. Were her parents at the wedding? If so, were they introduced as her parents? Who knew the truth? The lack of documentation suggests Drake managed to keep her secret from the press. Once free from Paramount, Drake became a freelance actress. This turned out to be an exciting time in her career. She had a good supporting role alongside John Wayne and Claudette Colbert in the RKO comedy Without Reservations. She was Kent Taylor's leading lady in the 20th Century Fox B film Dangerous Millions and played Dan Duria's girlfriend in Another Part of the Forest, a prequel to the classic Lillian Hellman story The Little Foxes. She also had a significant part in MGM's So This Is New York, starring Harry Morgan and Rudy Vallee, where she got to play a non-ethnic woman for a change. She went on to play Betty Davis' Native American housekeeper in Beyond the Forest, and Eddie Bracken's girlfriend in The Girl from Jones Beach, alongside Ronald Reagan and Virginia Mayer, where she again portrayed a Caucasian character. While her Hollywood career was starting to buzz, Drake's personal life was far from glamorous. She was grappling with a mild form of epilepsy and a tumultuous emotional state. Her husband Travilla once remarked, "She was one of those actresses who find it hard to come home and step out of the character she's been playing all day." End quote. It's impossible not to think that the constant lies and charade of hiding her true ethnicity didn't also weigh heavily on her. Even the act of posing as a Latin woman in Hollywood was pretty difficult. Latino performers weren't exactly treated with much respect, They weren't better than the blacks in that era. She was portraying someone who also was just a little higher, slightly higher, just based on color, skin, than black people. So she was still dealing with it behind the scenes. However, amidst the storm, there was a ray of sunshine. In 1951, Drake was blessed with the birth of her daughter, Nia Travilla. After taking a break to enjoy motherhood, she returned to the silver screen. She bagged a small part in the now classic film noir Kansas City Confidential, starring John Payne and Colleen Gray. Next, she brought flair to her role in the adventure film The Bandits of Corsica, featuring Richard Green and Paula Raymond. And finally, Drake had climbed up to leading lady status, typically playing ethnic characters in B films. She starred opposite Keith Larson in Son of Belle Starr and Rex Allen in Down Loretto Way. Drake also made the leap to the small screen, appearing in The Adventures of Superman in 1953 alongside George Reeves, and in 1954 she graced the screen for the last time in the 20th Century Fox Technicolor adventure film Princess of the Nile. After a few more TV roles, she bid adieu to the entertainment industry. Unfortunately, Drake's emotional state continued to deteriorate, causing her marriage to strain, and in 1956 she and Travilla decided to part ways. They never officially divorced and maintained a friendly relationship for their daughter's sake, and Drake even modeled in many of Travilla's fashion shows, and they appeared together as a family on an episode of Groucho Marx' You Bet Your Life in 1960. Despite these efforts, Drake struggled. In 1967, she sent her daughter to live with Travilla as she sought help for her epilepsy and mental health. However, nothing seemed to alleviate her difficulties. By the late 1970s, her health was in a precarious state. She mustered the strength for one last public appearance at the 1986 Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade in New York. Tragically, Drake passed away on June 20th, 1989 from pneumonia and respiratory failure. Reflecting on Drake's life, it's hard not to wonder about the toll her secret took on her. We've made progress in terms of representation in Hollywood, but there's still a long way to go. The era Drake lived in was difficult. It was filled with prejudice and discrimination, both in America and outside of America and in Hollywood. She likely felt she had no other option if she wanted to achieve her dream, but at what cost, to deny your true identity for the chance at a career? I can't even imagine how much of a heavy burden that must have been. Was it worth it? Who knows? Who knows? And so many of these stars went through the same thing. And like I said, we always ask ourselves, why do they all seem to go into Hollywood, get the fame, and then fall to substance use and die just tragically? It just seems like the same story over and over again. Now, with the age of information, we are finally getting a glimpse behind this world. And this is why there's so much lies. Nothing is real. And it's so much fabrication. to the point where her husband, if you go deeper into some of his interviews when he speak about her, she not only was acting, she was playing a role her whole life, right? Her whole life was a role. She had to play, having this background that she didn't have, but also playing movies. She just disassociated from reality, I guess. You know, one can assume that her husband stated she would come home and still be in character from the roles that she was playing and wouldn't even snap out of it. Like, it was crazy. She found that difficult. And a lot of these stars said that was their thing too. They almost developed this personality, but I think it's easy for them to develop these personalities of the people, the roles that they take, because they're already playing a role every day that they are a star every day. Marilyn Monroe always said, you know, Norma Jean is different from Marilyn. She spoke even in third person all the time when she spoke about herself, because she did not see herself as Marilyn. She just saw herself as playing the character Marilyn to everyone. And when you have to be on go, even when it's not for a movie, you're talking to fans, red carpets, etc., like, you stay in character, and only a limited few knows how to snap out of that. It can create so much confusion, depression, hurt, you know, because the studios gave you this personality and you have to keep up with it. And you can't just pop out and say, hey guys, it was all a lie, so that the public would not forgive you. They would feel bamboozled and played with, and people don't like to be played with, right? I can't even imagine, guys. Let's be grateful for our lives, okay? Comment below your thoughts on this crazy story. And still, you know, I have a lot of sympathy for her, so leave some flower emojis in the comments for her. I really have a lot of sympathy for her, because I can imagine, you know, this was a better alternative in her mind than being treated poorly at that era. What would you do if you could pass? I'd ask you. If you could pass and you were in that era, what would you do? You probably would answer like, oh, definitely not. I would stay true to myself. But then again, you're not from that era. You just don't understand. But nonetheless, I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. Comment below your thoughts. If you like the music you're listening to, the link is in the description. Until next time.